Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna. Please come, have a seat. I was thinking about the question that you asked the other day about how anxiety can really ruin our lives, or just really not just ruin, but rule our lives and ruin our lives. I was actually thinking about what you said. And I was also reading some about it from the Bhagavad Gita. I was thinking like this situation of being in anxiety, it's not a new situation. And Arjuna, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, he's in that same kind of situation. You know, he's kind of really being a king, being a warrior, being a trained yogi, all these qualities, you know, we don't have that, but he had all of that. Still, he's in this position where he's feeling extreme anxiety in the very beginning. And he kind of says to Krishna, who's his dear friend, he's like, Karpanya dosha upahata swabhava. He's like, I'm feeling this miserly weakness, and because of which I'm feeling this indecisiveness. I don't know what to do. I'm in complete anxiety. And you know, he goes on to say something. Yeah, I was actually thinking about his words, the specific words he uses here. He says, "Shokam uchoshanam indriyana." He says, "Shokam uchoshanam indriyana." What he's saying is he's so much anxiety that grief, shokam, uchoshanam, has completely dried up indriyanam, his senses. Like I don't know if you've ever felt like so much stress and anxiety that you feel your throat's dry, you can't take a decision, your heart's locked up. It's kind of like a very intense feeling, and he is having that. And I was thinking, like, well, maybe we can learn something from that situation, because you know, if someone comes to me, I might be like, oh my God, what's wrong? But Krishna actually approaches Arjuna in a very different mood. He actually asks him, he says, Kutastam kashmalam idam vishaya samapushtitam. Kutascha kashmalam idam. Where have these impurities come upon you? And it's very, like, you know, Krishna's not using words lightly. He uses the word impurities. And when you think of impurity, you know, I think about the school where we had like water, and then we would have impurities and try to clear them up. It's kind of like particles floating in dirt, particles floating in water. But you know that there is water and then there's impurities, and then you would put some sort of a cleanser, or you would let it stand, and after days of sedimentation, all this dust will settle down. So Krishna uses that word impurity. And impurity does imply dirt, but it also implies that what is on there, what you've taken on, is different from you. It's not pure. There's an extra substance out there. And I think that's where lies the first step, the key on dealing with anxiety or stress, is that it is an impurity. It's an external thing to us. We've taken it on, which kind of gives me some hope, because I feel like if I have taken it on, I guess I can leave it too. I may not know how to do it, but I feel like it really hits the nail on the spot. And the other thing that I know is good advice that I have received, and you know, our Krishna also says this to Arjuna, there is some solace in just accepting. You know, when we are sick, we panic. Oh my God, there is this problem, this disease. But then there has to be a point at which we accept that, okay, I have this problem, I have this disease, now I have to deal with it. So there is some peace in accepting it, and there is a way forward that comes out of accepting it. So the first thing I see Krishna do to Arjuna is help him accept the reality of the situation, that this is an impurity you've taken on, and it's all right. We can see it for what it is. And one of the biggest problems with anxiety is we associate so much with it. We kind of like become one with it. This is me. I am anxious. No, you're not anxious. You have anxious thoughts. And there's a separation between you and those thoughts. So if we can start the journey of separating us and these thoughts, um, we have a way forward that we can find. But the challenge is because of the way we live our life, because of the way we choose to live our lives, we aren't able to separate it. And why? Because our life's really like, I want something, I want to get it. Our life's really like, I see something nice, I want that. I hear something nice, I want to buy the CD. I taste something, I want to buy it. So our life is pretty much dictated by indriyana, by our senses, indra tripti. We're trying to satisfy our senses, and we think that's the way forward. And such a life where you think the way forward is satisfaction of the impulse of the senses is a life bound by distress and anxiety. Because this destination, satisfaction of the senses, it doesn't exist. It's a mirage. Material happiness, satisfaction of the senses, it's not a reality, it doesn't exist. It's just something we're chasing for so long, so we want to believe it's real, but it doesn't exist. Krishna says again and again in the Bhagavad Gita, Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. This is a temporary praise, and it is a praise of dukkha, which is what Arjuna is saying. Dukkha and shokam is the same thing. He's saying shokam, indriya, but like my senses are dried up because of shoka. So this is a place of dukkha, alayam. This is a home of dukkha, and we are living a life that is perpetuating a deep identity with the senses and their satisfaction, because of which that sense of dukkha and anxiety is exaggerated. So I was thinking the second thing, besides seeing a separation between like me and the senses, the second thing besides that is to actually see the second thing besides that is to be able to train your senses. And train in what? Like I train in the mridanga or the harmonium, or maybe I weight train. I don't. Maybe I do, right? Like a weight train to kind of build my muscles, or you just need it to build some strength after some time. Um, what kind of training are we talking about? Like, is there a course that I can sign up for? Not really. We are training our senses in restraint. You like the word spin there? Restrain. We are training our senses that we have the ability to restrain our senses. If you want to rush to the washroom and you have a meeting, you're probably going to wait because you want to restrain yourself so you can make it to your meeting. Just an example. It's kind of like a weird example, but just throwing it out there. But in the same way, if we have it in our daily life to restrain our senses, practice that restraint voluntarily, then we start to have a deep samskara, an impression that every time my mind and senses demand something, I don't need to act on it. That I, the soul, am different from the mind and the senses. And people think like, well, what does restraining your eyes or nose or ears or tongue, for example, like say vegetarian diet, don't eat animals. What does that have to do with identification with the mind? Well, mind is also a sense. The mind is the king of all the senses. If there was a television unit, the mind's the central processing television unit, and all these senses are antennas or like different, I don't know, I'm not like the best person to explain it, but all these senses are like transmitters that are sending signals to the mind. So it's deeply connected. If you are constantly like thinking you are the senses, what the senses want is what you want, then you cannot and you will not be able to disassociate with the mind. Any idea of mind control without sense control is just fiction someone's selling you. Don't waste your time on it. Mind control begins from sense control. So that was the second thing that I was wanting to say, that yes, separate yourself in the mind and senses, and then learn to control your senses when things are good. Because our idea is, oh, well, we had a great week. I worked very well. Friday night, let me blow everything up, have a great party, and do whatever I want. So sense indulgence. And the next day, I'm going to be back to efficient self. We don't see that those good moments when we feel anxiety are the product of those good moments that we wasted doing things that further that identification with the body and the mind. Yeah, mind control without sense restraint is just a fiction someone's selling you. So it begins from sense restraint. Now, sometimes we think sense restraints like a boxing match. My senses are going to want this, and I'm going to punch back and say, no, I'm not going to do it. But that's not, I mean, it is a yogic way. There are many yogis who will sit for years and just feel the, feel the urges come in and just not act on it. There's that way. But Krishna gives a very practical, easy way in the Bhagavad Gita, because Arjuna is like, I can't do what you're trying to tell me to do. This is very difficult. So Krishna explains in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Param drishtva nivartate. He says, when you see something better, param, once you see drishtva nivartate, you do not come back to what is lower. So here in this formula lies the key on how to control our senses. We have to develop better taste. Like if I tell you don't eat animals, you probably like, well, I have a taste for it. But if I serve you a delicious plant-based meal and you like the taste of it, it's much easier for you to choose that again and again rather than just deny yourself some taste. So we are naturally attracted to a higher taste. And Krishna is kind of saying that's the key. So I'm kind of recapping the whole thing. So do not identify too much with your mind and senses. Do not identify too much with your thoughts because you're different. It's an impurity, right? Krishna said that first. Second, he said, control your senses, like restrain your senses, keep a little distance from them. And the third is, how do you restrain your senses? By finding a higher taste. Yeah, there is this beautiful song by one of the Vaishnav saints. It's a beautiful song. It goes some. There's a line in it that I'm not going to sing the whole thing, but just one line in it that's very relevant to what we're discussing. He says, Vishaya Chariya Sera Se Majhiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari. Vishayacharya. Vishaya means pursuit of sense objects. So Vishayacharya, give up this pursuit of sense objects. And how do you give it up? Mukhe bolo hari hari. From your mouth, from your tongue, vibrate the names of the Supreme, vibrate the names of Krishna. Because ultimately, in life, we have to someday or the other realize that our area of control is very limited. There are things we can achieve by our own strength, and often we hit the limit of it. But when we depend on Krishna, when we depend on the Supreme, we have access to that which is beyond our range. And that surrender, that sense of surrender has to be there to actually overcome anxiety in a genuine way. There's a sense of accept, and surrender comes with a sense of acceptance that yes, I am due some suffering, some struggle. I accept it because I must have done something to kind of end up in this situation. So there's a sense of acceptance. It's not self-pity, but there's a sense of acceptance, that like a warrior-like acceptance. All right, we're faced with the enemy, we got to fight now. But there is an acceptance. There's an acceptance. Same example I gave in the very beginning of this discussion. If you have a disease, you have to accept first that, okay, I have this, now I'm going to fight it. But if you keep denying it, it's difficult. So that acceptance, that surrender, and then along with the surrender comes praying for help. And this is the best way you chant Krishna's names.